So my husband and I don't have any children. We knew that we didn't want any before we got married, and we both spoke about it because talking about whether or not you want children is important before getting married, to have that conversation, not later. So we both knew that we didn't want children. I knew that I wasn't going to change my mind. I haven't changed my mind. Um, and so we're still here, married, and no children. Most people say, you're still young, you're going to change your mind, or wait till you're older. So most people don't believe that that's actually what I want. It's just a choice, and I'll change my mind too, which maybe says something about what they think about that decision, that they think it's a decision that, when someone comes to their senses later on, they'll change their mind. So that's one of the most common reactions, people saying you're young, you're going to change your mind when you're older. There are people who are like, well, that's really selfish. And they don't come out and call me selfish directly per se, although it is kind of saying that that decision is selfish. So that's probably the other second common response that I hear from people. I mean, I don't really pay people any mind when they make those comments that I'm going to change my mind, I'm young. I mean, I'm in my body. I know what I'm thinking. I know what I'm feeling about that topic. And so in some ways, I might just say, no, I'm not, and just kind of reassure them that it is what it is, but also knowing that I don't have to, I don't have to convince them. That's not my role. Like, I know what I want, and that just is what it is. And they can wait and see when I'm however many years older they think I need to be to decide. They will see that the decision has stood the test of time. And I don't have a personal negative response to people saying, well, that's really selfish. I mean, I think that that response is a flawed response, right? Because, I think it's based on this idea that I'm choosing between myself and someone else, but that someone else does not exist in the world just yet. So it's not like I'm choosing myself versus a child who already exists. I'm just choosing to not create a child. So I think that kind of thinking is a little bit flawed because I'm not picking myself over someone else who's already here. So I don't really pay them any mind. I just, I might go back and forth with them for a little bit, but it doesn't do anything for me in terms of how I feel about myself or my decision. I know I was watching a reality TV show recently where they were pairing people based on compatibility. And the two people that they partnered together at some point during the show revealed that actually neither one of them want to have children. But it also turned out that in their interviews with the people who were the matchmakers, they both lied, saying that one day later on, they wanted to have children, but they said that because I guess they thought that would come across a certain way to say that they don't want children. And they were both talking about how they were nervous about telling their family members that they didn't want children either, even though they both knew, but they were still just kind of like, yeah, later on we'll think about that years down the road, as opposed to just saying, like, we don't want kids. I think now that I am a little bit older than, when people would first ask me about that. But I think also now that I'm older, for people who know that I don't have children, I think sometimes there can be a question in the back of people's heads, like, well, maybe she can't have children. Like, maybe that's really what it is, but this is like the nice, or this is the way that she feels okay in communicating that or explaining away the reason. And I think people who don't choose to be child-free, but are having difficulty with pregnancy, I think sometimes when they hear someone like me talk about not wanting to have children, I think that can also stir up feelings for them a little bit. And just kind of reflecting on that, one of the things that I often think about is that we maybe growing up assume that we will be able to have children when we're older, right? Like when you're little and you're playing house, you talk about how many children you're going to have when you're older, and there's this inherent assumption that we can have children. And the reality is that I have no idea if I can have children. I don't know because I haven't tried, right? And I think that's just something that maybe people don't consider if someone is struggling with fertility or struggling with getting pregnant, and then they hear someone like me who's talking about not wanting children, that they also might be assuming that it's possible for me when I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, I think that I expected that I would have children growing up. Like, I thought that I would. Yeah. And I think I probably wanted them at some point. I think it probably wasn't until maybe after finishing my undergraduate program, um, that I realized I wasn't interested. And even my mom will say, I can't believe you don't want children. If I had to think about someone who didn't want children, I wouldn't think it was you. I mean, maybe. I think that women probably, I mean, there's both like external pressures and then internal pressures. You know, you hear a lot of women talk about my biological clock is ticking, and there's like this internal yearning for children. So I think that there's probably something happening biologically driving people to want children that I don't have.
Mhm.
Um, you know, on top of external pressures, like when is this going to happen? When are you going to have children? And there is that kind of pressure. You're going to be the one who has to take care of that child. And of course, if you're going to have a child, then you should be responsible and take care of it. But if you don't want one, making that decision to make somebody else happy is the wrong reason. You know, children require a lot of time, energy, resources, and they have to make sure that they're prepared financially, that they have the time and the energy and the interest, you know, to be taking care of children. I think a lot of people who don't have children, or maybe who haven't been exposed to caretaking or taking care of children, maybe have these fantasies that they've built up about what it's going to be like to have children. It's going to be so cute. We're going to buy these cute outfits. We're going to have these lovely holidays. It's going to be so nice. And not that those things aren't part of, you know, being a parent, but also they're screaming and getting up in the night and being exhausted and helping children with homework and kids getting sick. You know, there's a lot involved that's not so cute, and that's the reality of the day that today in parenting, and people have to know that that's a reality of it as well.